A very good morning to all of you. Yes. So in the last class, we were trying to discuss about society, social institutions, and what are social groups like that. Do you remember all of those? Yes. Now, see, let us try to recap that portion in a little bit, and then let us proceed to today's class. Is it fine? So now, if I ask you the basic question, like what is society? So can you answer for that? Group of people. Good. So society means, you're saying society means group of people. Right. Then is there anything? Okay. Right. Apart from that, is there anyone? What is society?
Group of people living together, sharing their.
Okay. So, anyone? Right. See, when we talk about what is society, in yesterday's class also we try to just understand that society is nothing but like it is nothing but union of social groups and various social institutions. That means if we talk about group of people means social group. That means union of people is nothing but, yes, union of individuals or union of people or group of people is nothing but, simply to say, it is nothing but a social group. Okay. And what is social institution? Social institution means like it is simply nothing but like those social units which will tries to control and regulate the various functions of society. That means, for example, let me say, have you heard of caste, religion? See, all of these are nothing but simply to say some of the examples for social units or social institutions. So when we talk about society, society is nothing but group of such social groups as well as social institutions. Okay, and the interactions between them is basically nothing but society. And as we were saying that there are social institutions are again of two types. One is nothing but like primary social institutions, and other is nothing but secondary social institutions. Primary social institutions, yesterday we tried to understand that those institutions which tries to regulate the biological needs of society, biological needs of individuals of a society are called as primary social institutions, like family, marriage, kinship. All of these are nothing but primary social institutions. And those social institutions which will tries to suffice or which will tries to just regulate and control the other functions like economic function, political function, all of they are nothing but secondary social institutions. Like we have political organizations, we have economic organizations, so all of them, they are nothing but secondary social institutions. Now,
Political organizations like parliament?
No, yeah, political organization means like political party. Yes, parliament means like a group. That means like we have our political parties. Likewise.
Economy like industries?
Yes, economy, any group, any institution, any group, any organization, we can call it as social institution that should control the functions of that particular society. So they are nothing but likewise. So when we were discussing about the primary social institutions, we told like family is one primary institution and marriage is other social institution. Okay, so what is the function of primary social institutions? They will control and regulate the biological needs of individuals of society. So in today's discussion, let us try to take one of such kind of primary institution, that is marriage, and let us try to understand everything about marriage. Is this fine? So that is In today's discussion, we are going to have a look at the topic called marriage. See, when you see in your syllabus, marriage is a topic which is mentioned in paper 1, unit 2.3. Okay, so this particular chapter talks about the marriage, and like it is very important topic for our UPSC exam. And apart from UPSC exam, it is very important phenomena in our life also, isn't it? So is there anyone who doesn't want to get married? Yes. So that means like you are an exceptional category. So you will miss a lot of things, but you will be lucky. Means like you will have some advantages also if you don't get married. Don't worry. But so almost if you see, like all of us or most of us will go through this ceremony in our life. That means marriage. At least you should get married once in your lifetime. Okay. So right. So when we talk about this marriage is one of the important and interesting and one phenomena or one ceremony that will take place in human beings and human societies. Now, when we talk about marriage, can you define marriage from your perspective? Like, what is marriage from your perspective?
New start for two human beings.
New start for two human beings. Okay.
Nowadays,
New life. Okay. Union of male and female.
so nowadays the trend was changed. It's not between of male and female. It's between of male
Okay.
and marriages, illicit marriages.
Okay.
We have monogamy as well, which for marriage, husband.
Okay. See, basically, generally what we can say marriage is that simply in simple sense, we can say union of male and female or union of man and woman, isn't it? So this is what generally happens. Means when we try to just define marriage in very simple terms, we can say that marriage is nothing but union of male and female or union of man and woman, isn't it? But there are some exceptions. And when we talk about marriage as a social institution, like marriage is a universal primary social institutions which occurs in almost all the societies, isn't it? See, we have vast humankind. So in that, like in the world, there is a lot of societies do exist. So for that societies, like we have a lot of cultures exist. So in each culture, the traditions also vary. That means we are saying that marriage as a universal primary institution. And when we say that marriage as a primary universal institution, and in other words, we are saying that there is traditional variations across the world. That means, can marriage be similar across the world? No, marriage will vary. The tradition of marriage will vary from society to society, isn't it? So based on that, we have various types of marriages also. So in today's quest in our class is that let us try to understand what is marriage and how can we define marriage. And apart from that, like there is debate over the definition of marriage. If we say that marriage is nothing but union of male and female, it suffices one particular culture. But when we look at other forms of marriage, it does not suffice. So let us try to see what is that debate which is surrounding in and around the definition of marriage. Then, like what are the various forms of marriage or what are the various types of marriage that do exist in the society? And apart from that, there are some rules for marriage. That means you cannot marry in one community. You should marry within one community only, and you should not marry someone, but you should not marry. You have to marry someone only. So like that, there are some rules. So let us try to learn all of that. Okay. So as you have said, like marriage is like union of male and female. This definition is incomplete, and this definition has a lot of exceptions. Okay. So like anthropologists, usually the quest is to look after various such kind of institutions, and like they will study all of those things, then they will bring out some sort of clarity with respect to various activities. So various anthropologists try to study about this marriage as an institution, and they try to define marriage in themselves. Okay, so take basic introduction about marriage, then let us proceed further. Take basic introduction. So you keep the heading marriage and then write in a paragraph format. Marriage is a universal. Marriage is a universal primary social institution. Marriage is a universal primary social institution which regulates the biological needs of human beings. Which regulates the biological needs of human beings. Are you able to understand? Means like, do you able to follow what are biological needs? Biological needs are basically nothing but food, clothing, shelter, and sex, isn't it? So these are biological needs. That means, in other words, to say, like, the primary institution which regulates the sexual behavior of human beings is nothing but marriage. Is this clear? So now, that means, like, take next point. That means it gives the cultural sanction. It gives the cultural sanction and social approval to the union, social approval to the union between males and females. Between the males and females. Okay, so what we can say basically is that if we try to define the marriage, like, there are a lot of definitions for marriage which has been given by various anthropologists. Okay, so we also can construct our own definitions, but we have to just use authenticated definitions which have been given by renowned anthropologists. Okay, so basically what we can define, how we can define marriage? Union of male and female likewise. So, like, keep the heading, subheading, like, marriage, definition and its universality. Marriage, definitions and its universality. Okay, see, like, as we were discussing, marriage is a very subjective aspect, and like so many anthropologists have defined marriage from their perspective, and it varies from society to society. When we talk from Western societies, like, marriage is a mere social contract. It's nothing but it's an agreement. But when we take from, when we just see from other societies like Indian society, likewise, marriage is a religious sacrament. That means it is said that, like, marriages are made in heaven, isn't it? So in Indian society perspective, marriages are nothing but a religious sacrament. But when we look from other societies, like, it can be like Islamic societies, in Islamic societies also, it is considered that marriage, that is like simply they will say nikah. So nikah is a social contract. So when we see from Western societies, so there also marriage is considered as a social agreement or social contract. Okay, are you able to follow that? So following these observations, like one of the renowned anthropologists, like we have from Western ideology, like, marriage can be simply defined as it is a social contract between the members of a society. In simple words to say, we can define likewise marriage from Western ideology. Okay, so take down first definition. Take down the first definition, that marriage is an agreement. Marriage is an agreement or contract. Marriage is an agreement or contract to produce and maintain children. Marriage is an agreement or contract to produce and maintain children. Keep small hyphen and write according to Western ideology. According to Western ideology. Okay, so basically, like if we are just trying to define marriage, like we can just define marriage from various perspectives from different societies. When we look from definition of marriage from Western ideology or from Western societies, it is that marriage is a contract or an agreement between two individuals, which involves, means like which primarily concerned for the production, for the purpose of, yes, for maintenance and production of children. So this is from their perspective. Okay, now following or just observing such kind of Western societies, like a renowned anthropologist, his name is G.P. Murdoch. G.P. Murdoch. There is a renowned anthropologist called G.P. Murdoch. So G.P. Murdoch has observed the Western societies and he tried to give his way of definition of marriage. Okay, take down that definition and then let's try to understand what is that. So according to G.P. Murdoch, marriage is a universal social institution that involves, marriage is a universal social institution that involves residential cohabitation, economic cooperation, residential cohabitation, economic coordination and cooperation, and formation of a nuclear family. See, what G.P. Murdoch is trying to say is that G.P. Murdoch is an American anthropologist, and he tried to just define marriage on the basis of these points. That means what he is saying, that in marriage, like there should be residential cohabitation, and like there will be a kind of economic cooperation, and there is formation of a nuclear family. Okay, now let us try to just verify this definition given by G.P. Murdoch. Now, assume that there is the first future said by G.P. Murdoch is that residential cohabitation, right? If we look from the societies, like residential cohabitation means like living under one roof. Now, okay, yes, living relationship is different. Living together. Living together, male and female. If it is male and female, till that extent it is fine. Okay, and if we talk about other perspectives, means like living under one roof is nothing but residential cohabitation. And if you see like that in family, is that only man and woman will stay under one roof? Like there we can expect a lot of people, means number of people can stay under one roof. That means, is this condition sufficient for that? No, this condition in one way it is not sufficient, because like under one roof there can be one family living, under one family like there can be many number of people living. So that means in this format, like we cannot say that those who live under residential cohabitation comes under marriage. In other words, like there is one example called Naya communities, Naya community of Malabar. Naya community of Malabar region, that means present Kerala region. See, do you know what happens in Naya community of Malabar region? See, In Naya community of Malabar region, there is a practice called visiting husband practice. Visiting husband practice. That means in Naya community, that means we are talking from traditional society, traditional groups point of view. It is not at present still, it may prevail in some places, but when we talk from traditional societies, the traditional Naya tribes has a concept, has a tradition called visiting husband. Visiting husband tradition. Are you aware of this? Visiting husband tradition? See what happens in the Naya communities. It is very interesting. And see, for in Naya communities, like marriages will happen 2 times in a lifetime of girl, in a lifetime of woman. That means usually these Naya communities are matrilineal communities. Matrilineal communities means their lineage can be traced from mother side, like whatever this transfer of property rights will be from mother side. So that is matrilineal societies. So here what will happen in Naya community, a woman gets married for twice in her lifetime. So one such ceremony is known as Talikettu ceremony. Talikettu ceremony or Talikettu Kalyanam. So Talikettu Kalyanam means like a girl before attaining her puberty, like she will get married. And one man in the sense like a person from the same community, that means Naya community, or a person from higher community will just tie one sacred thread called Tali. So by that means like she officially performed that Talikattu Kalyanam ceremony. And he remains as an official husband for that particular woman. And what will happen once she attains puberty, later on, she can allow as many number of husbands as she can. And that tradition is known as visiting husband tradition. And the person like who has officially tied the knot, he will not stay with her. And a woman will stay in her mother's place only. And usually this tradition will be there between Naya community and Nambudri Brahmins. There are like Nambudri Brahmins. Like usually these Nambudri Brahmins will act as visiting husbands. That means they will come and they will visit that particular women's house and they will stay there for some time. It can be one night or 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then they can go. So likewise, in Naya community, there is a tradition called visiting husband tradition. And it is said that the woman who has more number of husbands will be just given more respect. So that is that tradition.
This tradition still exists.
It may be prevailing, but as far as traditional society perspective is point of view, so this is one such kind of tradition.
At what time this tradition was prevalent?
Like it was happening, still it is there, but it cannot be pronouncedly seen. And see, you may get one doubt like when one husband will come and when one husband will leave. So there can be some clashes, isn't it? So there can be some such kind of issues. So what will happen here? Like they will have usually this Naya community people, when we talk from historical point of view, they were nothing but warrior community. Warrior community means they used to protect, like warriors means like, yes, they used to be like soldiers and they used to protect this Nambudri Brahman community. And they will have that weapons, and while they were doing on that duty, they will have such kind of houses and they will look after such kind of women like whom they like. So they will visit that places particularly. So when a Naya particularly, when he goes for one woman's house, he has to keep his weapons outside the door. And remember, like in Naya community houses, when we look, a Nair community's house will have two doors. One will be from front opening, one will be from backside opening. So as and when a person comes to one wife's place, he has to keep his weapons outside in front of the bedroom, and then he will just enter into the bedroom, and if any other husband visits, he will just come and see that there is weapons, so some other person is there, so he will not come and he will just wait outside. So likewise, like they will have such kind of regulation there. So that kind of practice is there. Now say and try to just look at this future. Is there any residential cohabitation between them? No. That means, is it a proper definition for marriage? That means there are some exceptions. So one exception for this residential cohabitation is that Nair community of Malabar region. So where they have visiting husband tradition, and this second ceremony is known as Sambandham. Sambandham means they will have a relation. The relation would be usually a kind of sexual relation with many people. So this is Sambandham. So this is one tradition which occurs in the Nair community of Malabar region, that is Kerala. So do you understand this? So that
The one person husband
yes.
marries the girl, and if he spend there for some time,
Yes.
does the husband have the freedom to marry one more girl?
Yes, obviously. So that's why the Nair community is an example for polyandrous community. Polyandrous community. Do you understand what is polyandrous means?
A woman marrying more than one.
Yes, a woman having many number of husbands is nothing but polyandrous condition. When we go to types of marriage or forms of marriage, we will get to understand that. Okay, so this community, that is Nair community, is an example for polyandry. Polyandry means like having more number of husbands. Polyandry. Okay, so that is one thing. Now, the second feature that G.P. Murdoch said is that there should be an economic cooperation between the individuals. See, this is possible that when we look under the institution of marriage, there will be men and women staying, and there will be economic cooperation in the sense man may just earn or women may just earn, and they will share their resources. So there we can expect economic cooperation. And look at the third point which G.P. Murdoch said. G.P. Murdoch said that it also involves formation of nuclear family. So this will suit mostly for the Western societies, and this will not suit for all the societies across the world. When we look from India's perspective, Indian family system is majorly, we have a tradition of joint family system, isn't it? That means from this perspective also, G.P. Murdoch's definition does not suit universally. That means it cannot be accepted universally. Is this clear? What we are trying to look is that, we are trying to look at the debate which is surrounding the universal definition of marriage. There is a debate that there is no particular definition which can define the marriage, and that definition will be accepted universally. Okay, so this is one definition given by G.P. Murdoch, but there are so many exceptions to say that this cannot be accepted universally. Is this clear? So this is one way what G.P. Murdoch said. Now, in other words, we can just define marriage. So to define marriage, we have other ways. This is from G.P. Murdoch's perspective, and there is one institute called Royal Institute of Anthropological Society. Okay, according to Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain, according to Royal Institute of Great Britain, Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain, marriage can be defined as, according to Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain, marriage can be defined as marriage is a union between a man and woman, comma, such that the children born to the women are recognized as legitimate offsprings, such that the children born to the women are recognized as legitimate offsprings of both the parents. Okay, so this is one definition which is being given by the Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland. So this is one organization which is a renowned anthropological organization that has been established in the year 1871. This is Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland. The name of this organization is this one, and it has been established in 1897, and since its establishment it tries to just congregate all the anthropologists across the world, and it tries to publish their minutes in the form of various volumes. Okay, and in that, like, it tries to record various types of definitions, various types of information related to anthropology. So the publication of this Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain is known as Notes and Queries in Anthropology. Notes and Queries in Anthropology. So this is the publication of this particular organization, and this particular organization will publish such kind of volumes on regular basis. And there is one volume which has been published in 1951. This is roughly, it is around a 5th to 6th volume. So the definition which you have taken is from this volume, means that Notes and Queries in Anthropology, 1951's edition. Okay, so keep small hyphen and write, keep small hyphen in front of that definition and write Notes and Queries in Anthropology, 1951. Okay, now what is that definition? The definition is saying that it is a union. Marriage is a union between man and woman. Man and woman. Now let us try to look at the first. Let us try to look at the first phrase. Marriage is a union between man and woman. Is marriage will occur between man and woman? Can you say any other kinds of pattern of marriage which you can see in the society? It is saying that marriage between man and woman. Union between man and woman. Now, in the society, can you expect the union of man and man? That means, is there possibility for man marrying man? And is there any possibility of women marrying man, women marrying women? There is possibility like this. That means when we look at the first phrase, that is union between man and woman, it is not accepted. See, there is one community called New Year Community. New Year Community means all of they are nothing but tribes. New Year Community of Sudan. Where is Sudan located? Sudan in Africa. Is this clear? See, in Africa, there is a country called Sudan, South Sudan. So in South Sudan, there lives a community called New Year Community, N-U-E-R, New Year. So in New Year Community, there is one weird tradition that women will marry women. Women will marry women. See, why do they marry? We should know this also, because like simply learning or keeping things in abstract manner, that won't.
Biological things will happen to produce.
Yes, very good. Yes, your question is valid and it should come to you. Then only we can go to why this particular practice will prevail there. Very good question. Now, coming to your question, why does this happen means, usually what happens in the newer community means, in newer communities, like assume that there is a person, for example, let's say X. X is one male and there is one person Y. She is female. Assume that she is female. And for this couple, this is male and female, they both are married, and now assume that they doesn't have any biological child. Under such circumstances, the person Y will marry another female, say A. She will marry another female and she will let this female to get married with other man. Are you getting this? Let us say she may marry with B. And if any biological child for this couple are there, let us say C. C is the biological child of A and B, then this C becomes the child of Y. Are you getting this? See, like in newer community, what will happen means, if any woman does not have biological child, then she will marry another woman, and the children born to that woman with other man will becomes the legitimate offspring of this particular woman. So for that purpose, there is women to women marriage. That tradition will occur in the newer community of Sudan. Now, your question got answer. How do they get children? That means it is not in the sense that they will be in relation with one another, but for the purpose to get children, she will marry one woman, and that woman will, and she allows that woman to marry another man. So the children which will born to them will become their children, this woman's children.
Then how is the person will agree, sir? Actually, the main how
This is the tradition, and there won't be any contradiction in this kind of traditions, because it is being accepted, it is being practiced since years together. And this newer community also matrilineal community. Matrilineal community means properties will transfer from mother sides to the children. And if there is no official heir for this particular woman, so to whom she will share her property? So for that purpose, a woman must have children in the society.
what about the person having the woman?
Yeah.
They will not get married.
Yes. What about?
Another woman is there is a
Huh.
marriage.
Hmm.
Then what about?
Actually,
If a woman doesn't get married, like how can she get offspring?
obviously that is different case. That is exceptional case. Exceptional case, she can donate. She can donate to someone likewise. So this is the practice that happens. So there we can see women to women marriage.
Does they marry multiple women?
Does they marry?
Multiple women?
There is possibility that if she is not getting any biological child, then obviously she may go for another marriage with another.
In this case, that question will be sufficing.
Yes.
She can get married to some mother who is already married. Also.
Yes.
But
If
in,
they accept that,
but in recent
Yes.
man and man they are getting married. Even woman and woman they are getting married. Even they are having children. This service.
in between.
This also it is working.
This is in present trend, present issue, it is happening. We have to discuss anthropology from traditional communities perspective, and we should bring that examples. Okay, so that is one thing. So likewise, this is one example. And like in Africa only, we have another community called Azenda community. Azenda. So there we can expect man-to-man marriages. Man-to-man marriage between man to man. So such kind of traditions are there. So when we look from the definition given in this notes and queries in anthropology, the first point, as it is saying that union between man and woman, it will not suffice. It will not be fulfilled. That means there are some exceptions like Neo community of Sudan where we will have women to women marriage, and Azanda community of Africa where we can have man to man marriages. And let us look at the second part of the definition. So what is the second part of definition?
Children born of the women are recognized as legitimate offspring.
Yes. So in the perspective, it is okay. Okay. So that means like to some extent, this is also not possible. And when we look at the first part only, it is saying that a union between man and woman. Now, in the society, can we see only union between man and woman? We can see union between man and several men, man and several women, and there also we can see union between women and several men, isn't it? So there is possibility for that. That means from that perspective, like this definition is also not suffice. That means this is what we can say, this is one way anthropological definition, but still it is not sufficient to define, and still it is not the working definition. So to address some of the issues mentioned by this in this definition, like another anthropologist called Westermarck. So Westermarck tried to give another definition. Okay, you just take down that definition given by Westermarck, then let us discuss that. According to Westermarck, according to Westermarck, marriage is a relation between one or more men to one or more women. Marriage is a relation between one or more men to one or more women, which is recognized by a custom or a law, and involves certain rights and duties, both in the case of parties entering the union, and in the case of children born of it. Both in the case of parties entering the union and in the case of children born of it. Okay, so Westermarck, this is Westermarck's definition. Westermarck is basically, he's from Finland. He's a Finnish anthropologist, and this is how he is defining marriage. And when we look at his definition, he tries to address some other issues that are surrounding the definition of marriage. So he is saying that marriage is nothing but it is a relationship between one or more men to one or more women. That means he is trying to address that marriages will not occur between one man and one woman, and he is trying to say that there can be marriages between one man to several women, and there can be marriages between several women to one man, isn't it? There is possibility of that. And even in the society we can see, like, we do have polyandrous societies. We also have polygynous societies, polygynous families. Can you see what is polyandry, what is polygyny? Yes, one man, one woman. Yes, good. Yes. What is polygyny? Several women. So this is polygyny. So we can see that. And the Westermarck's definition, Westermarck, who is a Finnish anthropologist, his definition will address such kind of issues. But there is issue with him with reference to his next part of definition. But he says that, like, he talks about rights. He is talking about the rights. Okay, he is saying that it should be recognized by the custom and law, and that involves like rights which will come, that part he is speaking. So that part is little controversial from Westermarck's point of view when we look for some exceptional cases. So this is also in one way, Westermarck's definition is also in one way it is not accepted, and it cannot be accepted universally. Okay, and then we have some other definitions, means some other definition given by some other anthropologists. So let us look that also. So because like it is important for us to decode everything. Okay, see, when you listen to this Nair community of Kerala, so there were some exception that like a visiting husband tradition. So by studying that visiting husband or that particular ceremony of that particular tradition from this Nair community, there is one British anthropologist called Kathleen Gough. Kathleen Gough, she is a British anthropologist, and after studying the Nair community of Malabar region, she came with one definition, and this definition which has been given by Kathleen Gough is the most widely accepted, and it is the most possible working definition of marriage. Okay, just take down that so that you will understand that more in a proper format. So according to Kathleen Gough, marriage is a relationship between a woman. Marriage is a relationship between a woman and one or more other persons. Marriage is a relationship between a woman and one or more other persons, which provides that the children born to that woman under circumstances not prohibited by the rules of relationship. Children born to that woman under circumstances not prohibited by the rules of relationship is accorded full birth status. Comma, rights common to normal members of his society. Rights common to normal members of his society for social stratum. That means like what she means like, yes, she's a British anthropologist, and she has studied especially this Nair community of Kerala, and based on these observations or research based on this Nair community of Kerala, she has given this definition. And here you can just see that the first line, it is saying that marriage is a relationship between a woman and one or more men. So now this definition, when we look from the Nair community, is it okay? Yes. So that is first thing. And under such circumstances, children who are born to that particular woman are given full birth status. Usually in the society, what will happen if father of a particular children is unknown, then he or she, that means that boy or girl, will not get such kind of status that the society will give. But Kathleen Guff says that children born under such circumstances will get the full status, full birth status. So that is one thing she is saying, and that children will get the equal rights which all other members also will get. So that's what Kathleen Guff says. So when we look from the perspective of the definition of marriage, this definition would be is the most widely accepted, and in one way what we can say is that it is the working definition of marriage. Okay, so whenever if you want to just use one authenticated definition of marriage, there is no other go, you have to by heart it. So somehow like we have to use their own words, so definitions cannot be changed. So try to just read it and try to practice it, and we can use such kind of authenticated definitions.
It's not there for marriage.
Proper definition, it is not there, as the societies will vary, traditions will vary, so we cannot just satisfy with one definition. So as there are so many exceptions. Okay, so even when we see in the Toda community, Toda communities are polyandrous. Have you heard of Toda communities? Toda tribes. Toda tribes are from Nilagiri Hills, and they are polyandrous in nature. Polyandrous in nature, and in what will happen there means, what will happen in Toda community is that usually in Todas, the marriage will happen after once the woman gets pregnant. The condition for woman to get married is she has to become pregnant first. From somehow,
That person has to get married or
no, there is no such thing that like from home. There is no such thing. See, in the society, what should happen means the woman has to get pregnant first. And it is not mandatory that she has to disclose with whom she got that pregnancy. There is not such thing. See, we have to accept being member of society, and each culture is unique, and we should not just make mockery of any culture, but being like as we are a prospective civil servant, we should know about what is happening in the society in and around us. So these cultures are unique, and we have to accept their culture and accept their tradition which they are following. For example, if we are wearing this shirt and someone is wearing some other shirt, it doesn't mean that this shirt is good and that shirt is bad. We should not say that. So cultures are unique, and we should read everything, and we should not get offended, either offended, or we should not take some things personally, and we should not mock other cultures. Okay, so what happens in Todas is that, like if a woman needs to get married, she has to get pregnant. That means she has to prove herself that she is fertile. Once she proves that she is fertile, then she can get married officially. And when the woman gets her 7th month of pregnancy, in the 7th month of pregnancy, she will be officially allowed for going for marriage. And during that time, any man from the community can give one bow and arrow. Bow and arrow. He can present one bow and arrow to the particular woman, and he can just say that I am willing to marry you. Will you marry me? So then what will happen? If that particular woman accepts that bow and arrow, do you understand what is bow and arrow? Bow and arrow. So he has to prepare this bow and arrow from one particular tree, and then he has to prepare it by his own hands, and he has to present it to that particular woman. And if the woman accepts that bow and arrow, then officially the community will just announce that they both are married, and now the ceremony is completed. So this happens in this Toda community. So such kind of traditions are there. Yes, still it is in practice. Yes, in YouTube also you can see various videos. In video format also it is available. And do not expect like tribes means like they'll be like primitive people. No, they are very advanced people. But still they will follow this tradition. Means traditions will continue. Traditions will continue, and some of the traditions are still alive. So such kind of practices are happening. So in Toda tribes, there is a ceremony called bow and arrow ceremony. So in such manner, we cannot define marriage with one definition. See, usually like many definitions will say that children born to them will get legitimate rights and they'll be accepted as legitimate children. But in the Toda's case, a woman is getting pregnant before to the marriage. Then how can we say that like children born to that couple? It is not possible. So that's why there is no universally accepted definition for marriage. But what we can say that the universally accepted working definition for marriage is the definition given by Kathleen Guff. Okay, because it tries to address so many aspects from birth status point of view as well as rights point of view and between marriage between man and woman likewise. Okay, so that is one thing. So this is about one thing. And there is other community called Bonda community, Bonda tribes. Have you heard of Bonda tribes? The Bonda tribes are from Odisha. The Bonda tribes, they are from Odisha. So when we talk from Bonda tribes point of view, the Bonda tribes will marry with a tree. They will marry with a tree officially. That is their official marriage. So we cannot say like this person has married to this man. We cannot say likewise. It is like the Bonda tribes will marry with a tree. That is their tradition. So here when we see like not a man is marrying a woman, not a woman is marrying a man, but a man or woman can also marry one non-living aspect like tree. Then how can we bring one universally accepted definition? That means these are nothing but the people around the world, our traditions and cultures around the world varies. So from that perspective, what we can say is that there is no universally accepted definition for marriage, but still obviously that their societies will allow. See, their societies will allow that. There is no restriction like even when you talk.
Stay with any women,
Yes.
but he have to marry with tree.
Tree, that's it. The condition is that one. So there is nothing condition like even when you talk about Gonds, Gond tribes in central India, like almost they live in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, like Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh. These regions we will have Gond tribes. In Gond tribes also there is nothing called official marriage. Once the girl attains puberty, he or she can just if she likes anyone, she can just stay with that person. And there is nothing called a kind of tradition called marriage. But still, they will live with that particular person. If they don't like, then again they can change their life partners. So such kind of traditions are also there. So all of these things are accepted in their cultures. So we should not get like, how will this happen? See, we are looking these from our culture's point of view. See, like while reading the culture topic, we try to read what is cultural relativism. Do you remember what is cultural relativism? Apart from this, there was other concept called ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. See, what is ethnocentrism means? Ethno means culture, centricism means looking from the center of one particular culture. That means if you look anything from one culture's perspective, the other cultures can be better or other cultures can be worst. And when you're comparing one culture with other culture, and when you're just judging one culture from other culture's perspective, that means you are watching things from ethnocentric view. You are feeling that your culture is the great and you're comparing it with other cultures. For example, if we say like, if we take some examples like consumption of meat. So consumption of meat can be accepted in some cultures, but the same will not be accepted in other cultures. For example, if we say like in some strata like Brahmins, they will use this vegetarian food, isn't it? So consumption of meat will be allowed in lower strata, means like as per in the social stratification, like we will have Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras likewise. So Brahmins will not take non-vegetarian food, whereas others may take. So if Brahmins look this kind of consumption of meat from their perspective, obviously they will say that our culture is great because we are not consuming non-vegetarian. But what other strata may say, our culture is better because we are consuming it. That means if you judge one culture from other culture, then that is known as ethnocentric view. And opposite to this, we have other culture called cultural relativism. What cultural relativism says is that you should not judge one culture with other culture. Every culture is unique, and you should see one culture from their own perspective. That means culture is for them, and you should not compare, you should not relate that culture with other cultures. If they are consuming meat, that is their culture, that is their unique tradition. You should not compare it with other culture. There can be so many reasons. For example, like the people who are living in the cold regions, they need to get some sort of warmth in their body. So they should take, their food habits will vary, their clothing will vary. Like the persons who are staying in the tropical regions, their clothing will vary. If you say that wearing such kind of clothes is not good, then that won't suit. And that is not the ideal way of comparing cultures. So that's what cultural relativism says. So being an anthropology student and being a prospective civil servant, we should know about all the cultures that are present across the world, and that should be our perspective. Okay, so we should, that's why like most of the anthropologists will like this cultural relativism concept, because they will look the culture from its perspective. Okay, so that's why we should not make mockery of any of these traditions or cultures, but we should know about these cultures, so that when you go for administration of that particular area, you can better understand, and you can just better empathize with them, and you can administer them in an efficient way. When you don't know what is their culture and you're going for administration, how can we administer? It is not possible. We cannot go for efficient administration. That's why we should know all of these things. And anthropology as a subject gives us such kind of opportunity to understand various people and various cultures. So that is one thing. So this is how, like, you can take one conclusion. You can take one conclusion that marriage varies from culture to culture. Marriage varies from culture to culture, and place to place, and country to country. Therefore, as it is a subjective aspect, there is no universally accepted definition. There is no universally accepted definition for the marriage. Full stop. However, the definitions given by the renowned anthropologists like Kathleen Guff is most widely accepted, comma, most working definition for marriage. Okay, so that is one thing. So here we were discussing about Toda tribes. Toda tribes have bow and arrow ceremony. So there is another anthropologist called Malinowski. Have you heard of his name, Malinowski? See, he is one anthropologist, Malinowski. So he studied about this Toda community, Todas of Malabar Hills, Todas of Nilgiri Hills. So he studied these Toda tribes and he just brought one definition, though it is not accepted widely, but still it is important for us to quote Malinowski's definition also somewhere. So take down Malinowski's definition. Okay. A legal marriage, Malinowski's definition, a legal marriage is the one which gives a woman, legal marriage is the one which gives a woman a socially sanctioned husband, and children, a socially recognized father. A legal marriage is the one which gives a woman socially sanctioned husband and children a socially sanctioned recognized father. Now think from the perspective of Toda tribes. Now is this definition works for them? It works for them, na? Like she is getting pregnant before the marriage and now she is getting a socially recognized husband and the children born to that woman is getting socially recognized father. So this is a definition given by Malinowski after studying this Toda community of Malabar Hills, that means Nilgiri Hills. Okay, so this is how like we have to, whenever we are mentioning anything, we should just back up, we should use the anthropologist who has given the definition, and we can also say that Malinowski, after studying the Toda community, has given a definition which says that you can write likewise also in the exam. Okay, that gives you more credibility. Okay, so that's how like marriage can be defined. Okay, so if you happen to address or if you happen to just use one definition, you can use Kathleen Guff's definition or G.P. Murdoch's definition also will also work, but it is mostly it has some exceptions. So if you are writing that, then you have to write exceptions. For example, if you are writing about G.P. Murdoch's definition, you have to mention that, but there are some exceptions for this definition, like Nair community of Kerala, who will not share residential cohabitation. Likewise, you have to mention. Okay, so is this clear? So that is about like what is marriage and definitions of marriage and universality of definition of marriage. Is this clear? So that is about what is marriage. Now, after studying this, like let us proceed with various forms of marriage or various types of marriage. Now, keep the heading like types or forms of marriage. Types or forms of marriage. Now, can you say types of marriage? Yes, please. One. Monogamy, good. Then any other? Good. Polygamy. Yes. Polyandry. Okay. You know many things. Okay. Very good. Okay. No.
So Sologamy is
No, drop it now. Okay, then any others?
consensual marriage.
Consanguineous marriage. Okay. Consanguineous marriage. Then is there anything? Lineal marriage. Matrilineal means like, okay. So basically, if we need to categorize marriage, we can categorize marriages would be of two types. One would be monogamy, other would be polygamy. Okay. So marriages will be usually of two types, monogamy and polygamy. So in monogamy and polygamy, like we can have various types. Okay. When we are talking about the types of marriages or forms of marriages, marriages can be classified based on the number of mates. The first concept is based on the number of mates. Based on the number of mates. So what you have told is completely based on the number of mates, on the basis of number of mates. But there is possibility that there can be marriages based on the choice of mate, on the basis of choice of mate. Choice of mate means like you can marry a particular person from a particular community and you cannot marry a particular person from particular community likewise. So that means marriages can also be classified based on the basis of choice of mate. Okay. So based on the choice of mate, there can be various types of marriages. Okay. And apart from this, marriages can also happen based on some rules. Like whom to marry whom not to marry whom. So based on the rules also we can say. Okay. So let us try to understand on the criteria, one by one criteria. Okay. Now first, whatever you have told, it is based on the number of mates. That means you are saying that monogamy is still, mono means from Greek, mono means single or one. Gamy means marriage, single marriage. If you are talking about polygamy, poly means many, gamous means marriage. So if you have more number of marriages, then it is said that polygamy. If you have only one marriage, it is called as monogamy. Okay. So let us see, keep the heading like types or forms of marriages and keep the heading like types on the basis of number of mates. Types on the basis of number of mates. Okay. Now, on the basis of number of mates, marriage can be basically categorized into two types. So there is possibility to get only one marriage, isn't it? There is possibility for going for many marriages. So based on this on the basis of number of mates, we may have monogamy. This is one kind of marriage, and polygamy. Don't worry, listen here, then you can write. Okay. Monogamy and other is polygamy. Enough. Tell me, monogamy means having like one person having marriage with one person. That means man marrying one woman. This is monogamy. Now, tell me that, is there any possibility that a man staying with woman for a certain period and then again giving divorce to her and again marrying with another person, again staying with her, he or she for some time, and then again marrying with another person, staying for some period? Is there any possibility of such kind of thing to happen? Now what we are saying that monogamy means a person marrying another person at a time. Okay. And is there any possibility that a man or a woman can marry one person in her complete lifetime? Is there any possibility of like that also? So based on such kind of variations, monogamy is again of two types. Monogamy is again of two types. So one is nothing but serial monogamy. Serial monogamy means if a person marries, for example, if a man marries a woman for a particular period and again cuts his relation and again marries another woman for a particular period of time and again he marries another woman for a particular period of time, then in a serial manner, means at a time he is not staying with many persons. He is staying with one person at a time and then he is breaking that relation. Again he is just entering into relationship with other person. So such kind of relation we will call it as serial monogamy. Is this okay? Now, if a person marries, for example, if a man marries a woman and stays with that particular woman for lifelong, that is known as non-serial monogamy. Non-serial monogamy. Yes. No, when you take the definition, you will get it clearly. See, serial monogamy is nothing but if monogamy means if a person is entering into relation with other person for a particular time, that means it can be lifetime, or for example, let us say like from 2000 to 2010, one person was married with one person. Then in 2010, he has given divorce to one person. And again, he has married to another woman in 2011 and he just divorced that particular person in 2020. That means for the period 2000 to 2010, he was with one person. So, and after from 2011 to 20, he is marrying another woman and in relation with her. And again, he has divorced and again assume that from 2021, he has married other person. That means he is in a kind of practice called serial monogamy. Is this clear? Serial monogamy. And there is other thing called non-serial monogamy. What is non-serial monogamy? Marrying only one person, and serial marriages will happen. Will happen. There are so many instances. Non-serial monogamy, like only one wife. This will happen. Na? This is most commonly seen thing in the society. Okay, these things are also happening. Okay, so that's how. And the other form of marriage is polygamy. Okay, and when we talk about polygamy means just one person getting married with many persons in simple terms. These polygamy can also be divided into various types. For example, if one man is marrying with several women, so that is known as polygyny, as you said. Okay, and if a woman is marrying so many men, then it is known as polyandry, isn't it? Okay, and then is there any chance that there is a group of men marrying group of women and all of them together staying at one place and all of them like having all kinds of relationship? So such kind of marriage is known as group marriage, or this is also known as polygynandry. Polygynandry, or in simple terms to say, it is also known as group marriage. Are you getting this? See, in polygyny, what will happen? A man will marry several women. In polyandry, what will happen? A woman will marry several men. And in polygynandry, a group of men will marry a group of women. So there is possibility for that to occur. For example, what happens in Naga tribes of Northeast, what happens there means, usually, like for example, a person say like there will assume that there are three brothers. These three brothers, for example, one person marries a particular woman, means she will become the wife of all three or four brothers automatically, and then they will live together. Like once this happens because of availability of resources, and then if resources are good, then the second person may marry other person, other women, and this second person will become wives to all other brothers. And for example, if third brother is marrying to another woman, she will become the member of the family and she will become the wife of all other brothers. And all others will becomes husbands of these all women. In that fashion, polygynandry will happen. So that they are some kind of examples. Okay, and when we see this polyandry, now polygyny, we are saying this polygyny can be again of two types. Polygyny means what? Can anyone say? Man marrying several women. And in the society, when you see, usually, have you ever heard that a person has married several sisters? Isn't it? A person can marry several sisters. A person can marry different women from different parts of society. Is there any possibility for that? So, for example, if a person marries all the sisters from one family, that is known as Saroral Polygyny. Saroral Polygyny. See, what is Saroral Polygyny means? Saroral, the word saror is derived from a Latin word saror. Saror means sister. Okay? If a person marries, don't worry, like you'll be writing all of that. If a person marries the sisters of a family, for example, assume that there are 4 sisters in a family. If a person marries all that sisters at a time, so it is known as Saroral Polygyny. Okay? And opposite to this, a person can marry several women from different families. So that is known as non-saroral polygyny. Is this understood? Now, when we look at polyandry means, what is polyandry?
Women marrying.
Yes. Women marrying several men. Now, there also, is there any possibility for a woman marrying so many brothers at a time, and a woman marrying so many other men from different societies? So, if a woman marries all the brothers of a family, then that is known as fraternal polyandry. Non-fraternal polyandry. Are you able to follow this? So such kind of possibilities are there in the society. So now, like we have already understood what is polygynandry means, what is group marriage. Means like a group of men marrying a group of women, and both means like all of them would be having they will live together and they will get all such kind of relationship. So this is polygynandry. Now, if I ask you to say one example, means like from mythological perspective, and take like in the society, if I ask you like which is the best and ideal example for monogamy, can you tell from? Yes. Good. So you can means like for monogamy from mythological perspective, if you want to say like Rama and Sita. Okay, this is an example for monogamy. Okay, now in the similar fashion, if you want to go for polygyny, that means one man with several women marriage. Yes. See, we are not making mockery of anything, but still these are there in the society. So okay, so for polygyny, we can go for an example, mythological example, if we are taking Krishna and his wives. Okay, is this okay? Now, can you give any example for polyandry? Yes, example, Draupadi and Pandavas. Draupadi and Pandavas. Okay, so likewise, we can get some mythological examples. So in simpler fashion to understand, polyandry, example for polyandry is Draupadi marrying Pandavas. And here, this particular example will come under fraternal polyandry. Fraternal polyandry means Draupadi has married all brothers. So that's how, like here, like this Krishna and his wives would be like non-saroral, will be like non-saroral, means like he has married, like there is said that like with so many wives. So Rama and Sita will be an example for monogamy. Okay, but we are not supposed to use only these examples. We should use the examples from our society, existing societies. So we need to just mention at least one example from the traditional society's point of view. Okay, so almost in the society, like monogamy prevails. So almost all societies will just, we can quote an example as monogamy. But for other things, we should mention examples. Okay, so under monogamy, you can just take the examples. Usually anthropology, for anthropology, we should quote the examples of tribes. Okay, so take the examples. Like the first example under monogamy is, no, for monogamy. Okay, for monogamy, Khadar community, Khadar, Khadar community, Khadar tribes of Central India. This is one example. See, usually whenever we are saying a tribes, we have to mention the place. For example, as we have said, like Nayars of Malabar region, Nayars of Kerala, or like for example, Todas of Nilagiri Hills. Likewise, we have to mention. Good.
Gowns are Central India.
Very good. So likewise, we have to mention that. Otherwise, like there is no meaning. Like yes, likewise in the similar fashion. Yes. So take the second example. Like Kamar community, Kamar. Kamar community of Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Simply you can take like Kamar community of Deep South. Kamar community of Deep South. And then we have Gonds from Central India. Gonds. Yes, Gonds of Central India. That is one example. And then you can take Kasis of Northeast. Kasi tribes. Kasis of Northeast. Kasis of Northeast. Now, see, while reading about Gonds, we said like a Gond woman can just marry one man, and then she can live for a particular time, and then again after that she may break that and she can just live with any other person, isn't it? We have read like that. That means the Gonds of Central India can be an example for serial monogamy. That means till one particular time, as and when they are feeling comfortable with one person, they can stay, and then they can just change their life partners. So that's how. So these are the examples for monogamy. Okay, so this is unit tradition. Now let us go and have an examples for others. So for Saroral Polygyny, in Africa, we have some tribes called like Julu tribes. Have you heard of Julu tribes? Julu tribes, or these are also known as Swazi tribes. Swazi tribes of Africa. Julu tribes of Africa, they will have such kind of Saroral Polygyny. They will marry such kind of people. And then When we look at non-saroral polygyny, we have so many examples like we have like Gonds, we have Santals, we have Hos. So you can take examples like Santals, Hos of Central India, Santals and Hos of Central India. They follow such tradition, okay? And then like we have fraternal polyandry. So is there any example that you know for fraternal polyandry? Fraternal polyandry. See, we have Todas. Yes, Todas of Nilgiri Hills. So Todas of Nilgiri Hills, they also can enter into such kind of fraternal polyandry. Okay. So then for non-fraternal polyandry, like you can take examples of Bhotias of Himachal Pradesh, Bhotia, Bhotia, Bhotias of Himachal Pradesh. Lepchas, have you heard of Lepchas from Sikkim? Yes, Lepchas from Sikkim are Bhotias, Bhotias, Bhotias. Yes, Bhotia from Himachal Pradesh. So these are some tribes, they may enter into some non-fraternal polyandry. Okay, so that is about this one. And then the last one was the group marriage or polygynandry. Okay, see, when we take some examples for this polygynandry, like in French Polynesia, have you heard of French Polynesia from geography? In French Polynesia, there is one island called Marquess Island. So the inhabitants of this Marquess Island are called as Marquesans. Okay, so Marquesans from French Polynesia, and Chukchi tribes. Chukchi tribes, Chukchi, Chukchi tribes of Siberia. Where have you heard of Chukchi Sea? Chukchi tribes of Siberia. They will follow this polygynandry or group marriage pattern. Okay, so try to remember at least one or two examples from each type of marriage, and we have to quote this in the exam. Okay, so take this is on the basis of number. This is on the basis of number of mates. Okay, so just take headings like what is monogamy, likewise. So we can write. Okay, first heading is monogamy. Monogamy refers to a marriage of marriage of one man with one woman, one man with one woman at a time. At a time. That means condition is at a time he has to be with that particular man and woman. And this type of marriage is normally unbreakable, and this is the most commonly seen and widely accepted kind of marriage, and most stable kind of marriage practice is monogamy, because there are so many reasons for that. See, if we talk about the reasons why monogamy is most accepted and most widely prevalent thing, like there are so many advantages with monogamy. Can you say any advantages of monogamy?
Building best relationship between wife and husband, and regarding their understanding.
Yes.
Maintaining relationship between their families and regarding health also.
Yes.
Maintenance.
The DNA and other things.
Very good. Yes. Any others?
Heritage,
Yes.
past.
See, what you have said is exactly right. Means in monogamy, like what are the various advantages? Means it provides, means like it can just it provides better understanding between the couple, and like it will avoid a kind of hatredness, jealousy, or like a kind of quarrels between the family. Like usually when we talk in the olden days, like when there were like one man marrying with several women likewise, obviously there was usually there were like quarrels occurring, or a kind of jealousy that used to happen among these people. So monogamy tries to just improve such kind of things, address such kind of issues. Like it provides better understanding between the couple, it reduces the quarrels, it reduces the jealousy, and it reduces such kind of hatredness in the family. That is one way. And it also provides like a stable family life and stable sexual relationship between the members of family. And apart from that, like when we take, if monogamy is there, that means like one woman is there with one man, obviously their children will be taken care properly. For example, like if we have polygamy, like one father and woman, one father and mother, and if a father becomes stepfather, obviously the love and affection may reduce towards the children. So that's why in monogamy, like child care will be proper. So likewise, if we talk about monogamy, monogamy has several advantages.
Right characters are also sickness.
Yes, yes. So likewise, it is advantageous and it is most accepted kind of marriage. And based on the next point you take, based on the nature, monogamy is of two types. Based on the nature, monogamy is of two types. One is serial monogamy. Number one, serial monogamy. Second one, non-serial monogamy. Okay. Under serial monogamy, take if a person marries other partner after the death of existing partner, or if a person marries other partner after the death of an existing partner, or after breaking the relationship with one partner, it is known as serial monogamy. Okay. In non-serial monogamy, under that you write, if a spouse has, or if a partner or if a spouse has the same single spouse, if a spouse has the same single spouse or partner throughout his lifetime, it is known as non-serial monogamy. Is it okay? So then keep the heading polygamy. Under polygamy you write, if a person marries or if a person has more than two life partners, more than 2 life partners at a given time. Like while writing, try to read and write, then you can understand more. If a person marries or if a person has 2 or more life partners at a given time, it is known as polygamy. It is known as polygamy. Okay, and then basically polygamy can be of 3 types. So yes, polygyny, polyandry and polygynandry. Okay, then you can just keep polygyny heading as polygyny, and you can write polygyny, and you can write it is a type of marriage. Polygyny, it is the type of marriage in which a man marries several women at a given time. Several women at a given time. Okay, several women at a given time. And in that only, like if a man marries the sisters of same family, if a man marries the sisters of same family, it is known as Saroral Polygyny. It is known as Saroral Polygyny. And if a man marries several women who are not necessarily sisters to each other, is known as non-saroral polygamy, non-saroral polygyny, non-saroral polygyny. Can you able to recollect the examples? Like remember examples when you quote, like when you talk about this, you have to mention these examples also. Okay, remember that. And then keep the heading like polyandry, and then you can write it is a type of marriage practice. It is a type of marriage practice in which a woman marries several men at a given time. Try to observe that we are stressing at a given time. Okay, is known as polyandry. And in the next point, if a woman marries several men who are brothers of a family, is called as fraternal polyandry. Is known as fraternal polyandry. Okay, and then in the next point means like if a woman marries several men who are not necessarily the brothers, is known as non-fraternal polyandry. Non-fraternal polyandry. Non-fraternal polyandry. So that is about polyandry. And then like this is about means like marriages based on the number of mates. Is this clear? Now apart from that, like we have polygynandry. Polygynandry means like it's a kind of group marriage practice. Now can you define what is polygynandry? A group of men at a given time. So that is nothing but polygynandry or group marriage. So that is about this. So this is all based on the number of mates, isn't it? Now, based on the choice of mate also we can have various marriages. So that based on that, like have you heard of the practice called endogamy? Have you heard the practice called exogamy? So there is other kinds of marriage. There is other kinds of marriage called exogamy and endogamy. Okay, so now let us have a look at types of marriage. Types of marriage. Yes. Based on choice of mate. Based on the choice of mate, we can have two types of marriages. One would be endogamy. Other would be exogamy. Now, how many of you want to get love marriage? How many of you want to go for arranged marriages? See, if you want to go for a love marriage, then it may become like exogamy kind of practice. For example, like you may practice outside your caste, you may just marry outside your religion, likewise. And if you are marrying within your group, that is, if you marry within your caste, if you marry within your religion, if you marry within your village people, then that is known as endogamy, isn't it? For example, when you marry outside the social group, like if one caste person inter-caste marriage is a practice of exogamy. Inter-religious marriage, it's a kind of exogamy. Like inter-village marriages, that can be exogamy. Is that clear? That means marrying outside one social group is known as exogamy. Marrying inside one social group is known as endogamy. Endo means inside, exo means outside. So exogamy, endogamy. So that is means like based on the choice of mate. Based on the choice of mate. So that is about this one. And when we talk about endogamy is again several types. Are you wondering how many types of marriages are there? So we can't do anything, like we have to learn about all of these things. So and try to just understand that these many kinds of marriages are there. And now, for example, if you are marrying within the tribal community, your own tribal community, then that would be known as tribal endogamy. If you are marrying within your own caste, if you belong to one particular caste, and if you marry within your own caste, that is known as caste endogamy. And if you marry within your religion, then that would be known as religious endogamy. Is this clear? So that is one thing. Or if you are marrying within your Varna. Have you heard of Varna system? So in the society, like we have social stratification, like the society has been divided into various strata based on their position, means like it has been from divine origin point of view, like we have society has been vertically divided into several strata, where like Brahmins would be at the top of the social strata, then Kshatriyas, then Vaishyas, then Shudras. So this was the Varna system, Chaturvarna system in the society. So this is Chaturvarna system. So if a person from Brahmin Varna marries the Brahmin, then that would become Varna endogamy for that particular. So if one person from one Varna marries the person of same Varna, that is known as Varna endogamy. Now, in the similar fashion, like exogamy means marrying outside their social group. So these exogamy can also be of various types. So can you say like any exogamy? Yes?
Sorry, intercaste marriages.
Intercaste marriages? Yes, that is okay. Can you name any particular with any specific kind of marriage practice? See, the exogamy can be of Gotra exogamy. Have you heard of Gotra? What is Gotra means? Like every person or every family will have one particular Gotra. So it is said that Gotra is similar for same lineage. Means like those who have common ancestors, they are the brothers and sisters of that particular. If they have same Gotra, similar Gotra means they are the brothers and sisters of that particular family. And it is said that you should not marry a person having same Gotra. So if we are marrying a person from other Gotra, that means the Gotra outside one's Gotra, that is known as Gotra exogamy. And there is other exogamy called Pinda Gotra, Pinda exogamy. Pinda exogamy means, for example, like usually there is a ritual in Hinduism that like we will keep something called Pinda to our ancestors, isn't it? So going by that logic, there is one Sapinda exogamy. Sapinda exogamy means, Sapinda means brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters means same origin. Brothers and sisters, they should not marry and they should marry outside their family. So that kind of exogamy is known as Sapinda exogamy. And apart from that, like we have normal things like village exogamy or group exogamy. Likewise, they are normal things. Okay, so they are some kinds of exogamies. Other one you can take like village exogamy. So likewise, based on the choice of mate, we can have types of marriages can be of two types. One is endogamy and other one is exogamy. So is this understood? Okay, so you can take that one and you can write that points. You can write those points. On the basis of choice of mate, marriages can be divided into two types. Marriages can be divided into two types. One is endogamy, endogamous marriages. Other one is exogamous marriages. Exogamous marriages. And keep the heading endogamous marriage. Keep the heading endogamous marriage. Under that write endogamous marriage. It is a type of marriage. It is a type of marriage. It is a type of marriage in which a person marries, within their own community or within their own social group. A person marries within their own social group, like caste, religion, etc. Okay, so based on that, there can be like tribal endogamy, caste endogamy, religious endogamy, or within their Varna. If they are marrying within their Varna, it is known as Varna endogamy likewise. And keep the heading exogamy. Keep the heading exogamy. There you can write marrying. It is a marriage practice in which an individual in which an individual marries outside outside one's own social group, such as Gotra, Sapinda, etc. Gotra, Sapinda, etc. Okay. Gotra means simply to say it is nothing but clan through which we can trace the lineage. So that is one kind. So apart from this, we can also have other marriage practices based on the basis of preferences. First one was based on the number of mates, second one was based on the choice of mate, and apart from this, based on the preference, purely on the basis of preference, we can have several other types of marriages. So have you heard of parallel cousin marriages, and have you heard of uncle niece marriages? Uncle niece marriages. So likewise, based on the preference, like we can have various types of marriage. So based on preference, if you see, based on preference, marriages can be cousin marriages, or can be uncle niece marriage. Have you heard of this uncle niece marriage? Then there is other marriage called levirate. There is other kind of marriage called surrogate. There is other marriage called as surrogate. See, what is cousin marriage means, usually what will happen in the society. In the society, the cousin marriages are again of two types. The cousin marriages will be again of two types. One would be parallel cousin and other would be cross cousin. Cross cousin means, cousins means siblings, isn't it? Parallel cousins means, for example, the children of, for example, if there is a mother, her sister's children are nothing but parallel cousins. If a mother is there and his brother, and between children of them are nothing but cross cousins. So in some instances, what we can see is that there are parallel cousin marriages. That means, for example, father and his brothers and children of that particular combination is getting married. It is known as parallel cousin. And cross cousin means father and his sister, children of both of them. If they are getting married, then it is known as cross cousin marriages. That is cross cousin marriage. So these things will happen normally. And in some instance, we can also expect uncle and niece marriage. For example, like there is a woman, there is a mother, like her daughter will marry with his uncle. That means her mother's brother. That is nothing but uncle niece marriage. This is also practice. And there is another practice called levirate. In the Latin, the word lever means brother. In the Latin, the word lever means brother. And this levirate means like a woman will marry the brother of her husband after his death. Assume that like a woman has married a man and meanwhile the man has expired, man has died. So then what may happen? There is possibility that this particular woman may marry the brother of that particular person. So that is known as levirate kind of marriage. And in colloquial language, means in local language, this levirate marriage is also known as Devar Vivah. Devar Vivah. It is also known as Devar Vivah. In colloquial, it means in local language, we can call it. In the similar fashion, like there is other practice called sororate. It is a kind of preferential marriage, like where soror in Latin means sister. And if a man marries the sister of his wife after the death of his wife, that is known as sororate. And colloquially, this is known as, from North Indian perspective, if we are speaking, it is known as Sali Vivah. Sali Vivah. So these are some types of marriages based on the preference. Are you able to understand this? So first we try to understand the number of, marriages, types of forms of marriages based on the number of mates, and then based on the choice of mates, and based on the preference in the society. So this will happen. This is one another way. So take this chart, and obviously you are understood what is this, means like what is levirate, what is sororate, like there only it has got covered. So you just take this flow chart, and that would be useful to you. Okay, so that is one thing. Is this okay? So apart from this, like the other important thing is that we have to understand the rules of marriage. Like there are some rules or regulations for marriage. So from the beginning, we try to understand what is marriage, and like what is the definitions of marriage and universality of definition of marriage. Is marriage universal institution? Is marriage a universal institution?
Yes.
Yes. Now, is the definition of marriage universal? No. Marriage is a universal primary institution, whereas definition of marriage is not universal, not universally accepted. Is this clear? Like we have so many definitions, okay? And then we try to look at the various forms of marriages or various types of marriages. And in simple fashion, let us try to have a look at the various rules of marriage, okay? Rules of marriage. Rules of marriage means whom to marry, whom not to marry, that aspect, okay? Now, keep the heading like rules of marriage. Rules of marriage. In simple terms to say, there are 3 rules of marriage. One is prescriptive rules of marriage. There are 3 types of rules and regulations. One is prescriptive rules. Prescriptive rules. Second one is prescriptive rules. Prescriptive, prescriptive, and preferential. Preferential marriage. Okay, so TIL, you can keep prescriptive rules, prescriptive rules, and preferential rules. Now, what is this prescriptive rules means? These rules and regulations will prohibit you not to marry for going for some kind of marriages. For example, have you heard like, are you allowed to marry your own brother? Are you allowed to marry your own sister? No. That means you are saying no means it has been already prohibited you to go for such kind of marriage. So such kind of marriage is known as, regulations are known as prescriptive rules. That means those rules which prohibits for going into one particular marriage is known as prescriptive rules. That means these rules are prohibitory in nature. Simply an example for such kind of thing is that, have you heard of incest taboo? Means having sexual relationship with the, for example, mother and son, father and daughter, or like brother and sister. So this is prohibited in the society. So such kind of thing is known as incest taboo. Okay, this is also one important question that is regularly being asked in UPSC from anthropological perspective, anthropology paper. So incest taboo is one such kind of practice which has been prohibited. Okay, so such kind of rules are nothing but proscriptive rules which are prohibitory in nature. Is this clear? And then we have prescriptive rules. Prescriptive rules are prescriptive regulations. See, usually when we talk, when you go to doctor will give you one prescription. One prescription means he says that you should take this particular tablets. Likewise, that means you should use these tablets. It is saying that you should not go for such kind of marriage. When we talk about prescriptive rules, it says that you have to marry this person only. Is this clear? So for this category, the prescriptive rules are usually they will tell whom to marry. It says whom not to marry, it says whom to marry. So likewise, like practices like endogamy, that means marrying within one's own caste, or marrying within one's own religion, or simply to say marrying within one's own group, is one such kind of prescriptive. Or exogamy means marrying out of one's own social group. So that is a kind of practice which is means like that thing. And apart from this, we have other practices called, have you heard of this thing called hypergamy and hypogamy? Hypergamy and hypogamy. Hypergamy and hypogamy. See, there is practice called hypergamy and hypogamy. So what is this hypergamy and hypogamy means? Can you able to recollect Varna system? Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. For a particular thing, for example, assume that this is Varna system. Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. Now, if a man from Brahmin community, marries a woman from Kshatriya community or lower strata, that means man from Brahmin community, simply I am taking an example, Brahmin community marries women of any other strata. Here what is happening means the position of women is rising, means elevating. So such kind of marriage is known as hypergamy. Hypergamy, that means man marrying the man of higher strata, marrying the woman of lower strata. So that is known lower class. Hypergamy, simple. Lower caste men. Hypogamy, their position of women will just degraded. So that is known as hypogamy. Is this clear? So it is again saying that like it is prescriptive, and in society sometimes hypergamy is accepted, but hypogamy is strictly not accepted. Okay, so that is one thing. So when we talk about preferential marriages are nothing but, as we have saw, they are nothing but cousin marriages, levirate, surrogate, all of these things are nothing but preferential marriages that we usually happen. So this is how, based on these are the rules and regulations of marriage. That means these rules and regulations, they will tell whom to marry and whom not to marry. Is this clear? So this is about the rules and regulations of marriage. So that is about this thing. So you have written about this now. So in front of this, you just take prescriptive rules. Prescriptive rules. In front of this, you take prescriptive rules are prohibitory in nature, and explains whom not to marry. Whom not to marry. In the second point you write, it restricts marriage between certain persons. Marriage between certain persons. So it is known as, example for that is incest taboo. Incest taboo. Second one is prescriptive rules. Under that you try to write 2 points. Like first one is it enforces, means these rules will enforce, or it enforces whom to marry. Whom to marry. Whom to marry, or simply it prescribes whom to marry. Okay, you can just mention practices like endogamy, exogamy, hypergamy, hypogamy. They will be prescriptive in nature. And then third one, preferential rule. Preferential, under preferential, you can write. It explains whom to marry, as well as decides whom to choose in particular. That means an uncle is marrying niece. That means it's like a particular sibling or particular cousin is marrying one particular cousin. Likewise, so this is preferential marriage. Under that is one thing. So this is one where we have to understand in the next class, like let us understand like what is incest taboo and how that will be just like there are so many theories to prohibit this incest taboo. Like why we should not go for this this kind of practice. There are some theories also been given. So in the next class, let us understand that. Okay. So, but in this class, let us try to understand like we have saw various types of reasons, various types of marriages. Like we had polygamy, polyandry, monogamy, all of these things. And can you say the reasons for same? Reasons like why do we go for polygamy? Why do we go for polyandry? Under which kind of situations we will go? Can anyone say? For example, if a particular community, like we have said that, like the Todas will go for polyandry or Nagas will go for polyandry, isn't it? So can you say why we have such kind of patterns of marriage? Can you guess reasons for various marriages?
So because
Limited,
they are having
good, 1 point, limited resource. Okay, enough.
they don't want to share their assets and things to others. I mean the people who are
Okay.
outside. So that's why they get married with their families.
Okay. You are talking about endogamy. That can be reason. And I am talking there are various types of marriage like monogamy, polygamy, polyandry, likewise. So why do we go for that? So one answer, like someone said, like limited resources is one cause. So don't worry. Let's categorize that and then you will get understand. See, when we talk about reasons for such kind of occurrence of practices, the reasons can be biological reasons. The reasons can be like economic reasons. The reasons can be political reasons. So likewise, we have biological reasons, economic reasons, socio-cultural reasons, and we have political reasons likewise. Okay. When we talk from the reasons perspective, first thing what we can talk is that biological reasons means we are going for various patterns of marriage or forms of marriage like monogamy, polygamy, polyandry, likewise. When we look from the first point of thing, biological reasons, like biologically assume that, have you heard of sex ratio? Now, in a particular community, for example, assume there is a community in which there is low female sex ratio. Assume that, for example, for every 1,000 males, there are only, okay, we are taking hypothetically. For example, there are only 750 females. Okay, hypothetically, in a community, for 1,000 males, there are 750 females only. Now, if we go for monogamous practice, then 750 male will marry with 750 females because that is the combination. Now, what about the rest over 250 males? Whom should they marry? There is no mate for them. So under such circumstances, what will happen?
Poly.
Under such circumstance, polyandry will be there. That means one woman may marry several men, obviously. So if sex ratio is low, that means low sex ratio, low female sex ratio is there, means then we can go for polyandry. Are you understanding this? Are you able to understand this? And if opposite is the case, for example, if there is high female sex ratio, we are talking from female point of view. If there is high female sex ratio, for example, assume that there are 1000 females and 750 males. Simply, hypothetically, I am taking the number. Now, under such circumstance, like 750 males will marry with this female, and then what about 250 extra females? So, they will, under such circumstance, polygyny will take place. Are you able to understand the reasons? So, this is one reason. And apart from that, assume that in the society, this is very well think that. Assume that there is a woman who is sterile. If she is unable to conceive or give birth to child, so then under such circumstance, usually the family will force that particular person to go for another marriage, to marry another woman, isn't it? So based on fertility and sterility, based on fertility and sterility, means this is a kind of biological reason. Based on this, there is possibility of going into polyandrous and polygamous situation. For example, if a woman is sterile, obviously that particular man will marry several other women, then there we can expect polygyny. And for example, if a man is, by chance, if a man is sterile, obviously polyandrous condition may come into picture. So is this clear? So with reference to biological reasons. Now, apart from this, we may have some economic reasons. Can you say any economic reasons? Economic reasons? Good, very good. Good. Dowry. See, in the beginning you said like availability of resources. Availability of resources. Now you said about dowry. Dowry. For example, in a family, for example, assume that there are 4 brothers. Enough. Like these family heard, for example, his father is unable to marry that 4 brothers. Then what may happen? He has to just marry these brothers to women, isn't it? So when the resources are limited, are based on the availability of resources, if resources are scarce, then we may go for such kind of polyandry or polygyny. For example, assume that there are 3 or 4 sisters and his father is unable to give, he doesn't have resources, he will give all these sisters to one particular person, isn't it? There is chance. So that may also just decide that kind of marriage. Now, assume that resources are plenty. Now a person has plenty of resources. He doesn't know how to use that, how to just manage that resources. Now he may get into multiple marriages so that like he will have more number of children, so that he can just best utilize all of his resources. Is there any chance for that? So if the resources are plenty, then there is such kind of chance. Now assume that resources are optimum. Now you have only that much resources to just suffice only to carry with only one marriage. Then what will you do? Monogamy. So if resources are optimum, you will go for monogamy. If resources are plenty, you may go for such kind of polygamy, polygyny, such kind of thing. So that means like types of marriage will be dependent upon various reasons. So one such reason is availability of resource. So based on these factors, that may change. And dowry, bride price, like bride wealth, all of these are nothing but some other economic reasons. Means there is a prevalent concept called dowry and bride price, bride wealth. If dowry is more in the society, for example, assume that there are three sisters and a father has to give lot of dowry to the groom, then obviously he has to compromise. So in that sense, he may compromise and give all that sisters or two sisters to one particular person. Then there may be a chance of getting polygyny, isn't it? That means like they will affect the form of marriage. So that is also one thing. Like we have bride price, dowry, all of these are some other reason. Have you heard of this concept, bride price? Bride price, that means along with giving the bride, the father will give some sort of price to the groom. In some communities like Todas, they will give cow as bride price. In some other communities in South Africa, along with the bride, they will give the iron instruments, iron weapons. So that is their practice. So along with like bride, they will give some sort of gifts to groom. So that is nothing but bride price. So this is one reason. And assume that in economic reasons, assume that there is a situation called poverty. If a family is under poverty, obviously they will have to compromise. So they will go for any kind of polyandry, polygyny, such kind of practice. So is there any possibility for that? So this is also one reason. Now, apart from this, the third reason which we can quote is socio-cultural practices. Socio-cultural practices. Socio-cultural practices. What are these socio-cultural practices? See, have you heard of this practice called female feticide and female infanticide? So which was happening in the society? Female feticide. Female feticide or female infanticide. So with female feticide or female infanticide, what may happen? The number of females will get less. When there are less number of females available and there are more number of males available, obviously this will lead to polyandrous situation. Are you able to follow this? Due to socio-cultural practices like female feticide or female infanticide, then it may also decide the pattern of marriage. Is this clear? Now, or infanticide. Can you name a place in India where you can get this kind of practice, female infanticide, where we can see pronouncedly? Huh? Yes, good. In India means like usually in places like Haryana, this female feticide and infanticide practice is more. Okay, are you able to follow? So this is one reason. Now, have you heard of this concept called son meta preference? What is son meta preference? Son meta preference means they want only son. They doesn't want girl child. And if there is girl child, and they will just go for abortion in the pregnancy time only. So this is another cruel practice or another cruel factor which will define the marriage pattern. If there is son meta preference, obviously they are just prohibiting this female child to enter. So obviously then also there is possibility for that. Okay. And in other fashion, like assume that there is a married couple and for example, the woman is giving birth to continuously to female children. And obviously that man will marry other women, stating that, blaming that this woman is giving birth completely to only girl child. So I want this male child, so I will marry other women. but he forgets the logic. How does this combination will happen? Are you getting that? So in such a fashion also marriages may occur, like in that manner also, like types of marriage means like polyandrous, monogamous, polyandrous, polygynous condition can be there. Okay, is this clear? And the next socio-cultural practice is nothing but war practices. War. See, this is from traditional war practices. Assume that a community, like for example, we have talked about Nair community simply. We said like they are warriors, means like they'll be involved into war kind of practices. Now, what will happen means, like even when we talk about Nair community also, this was the reason why they were polyandrous in nature. Continuously, they were in war practices. They were involved into war activities. Obviously, there is chance that like usually who will go for war? Men will go. So in wars, like usually these men used to die. So because of that factor, like availability of men was less, female were more. So they used to just go for such kind of practice. So this is one way. And in other fashion, after the wars, like if I assume that there is a place where which has got defeated, and the means like the community which own will just take over this particular community, and here they will just use the women like into other activities like prostitution or concubinage, such kind of activities. So war practices, that's how they will also influence this particular marriage patterns. So that is one thing. And like we have, apart from that, we can have some political reasons also. Political reasons means for political gains, states may allow certain kinds of marriages. For example, some states will allow only monogamous practice. Some states, like based on their popular demand, they will allow polygamous conditions, isn't it? So to give you example, like some Islamic countries or Arab countries, they will allow polygyny, means like legally it is allowed. That means legally up to four people they can marry. That means polygyny condition. Some of the states will allow only monogamy condition, means monogamy is legally allowed. So that's how the marriage practices will be just dependent upon various reasons. And even in the interview also, these kind of aspects can be asked. Okay, for example, if you come from such kind of background and which kind of marriage practice you can see in your community, likewise they may ask you. So that time, like, you have to process these things and you have to say. Are you getting this? So this is basically about the marriage topic. Okay, can you able to understand, or can you able to recollect what is marriage and what are the types of marriage, like what are the reasons for that marriage, all of these things? So this is all for today, and in tomorrow's class let's learn about like the various means like bride price, bride wealth, and as I have told you, like incest taboo and theories behind that incest taboo, all of that. Okay, so till then, take good care. Let's meet tomorrow with other interesting topic, that one. Okay, so that's all for today.